I thank the gentleman. Dr. Califf, in 2020, the CARES Act gave FDA enhanced data collection to help mitigate drug shortages. In your response to our March 27, 2023 letter on drug shortages, you claimed only 44% of registered facilities have complied. Is that correct?
That was true at the time, but it's gradually getting better.
Has the FDA enforced any actions against the non-compliant facilities?
I'll have to get back with you on that. I'm not aware of any particular actions or exactly what the actions would need to be other than reminding them of their responsibilities.
Yeah, and I would love for you to get back with me on that and send me a written response. I would appreciate that. We heard in the drug shortage hearing that was happening downstairs earlier today that the economic pressures are a big factor in causing shortages, particularly in the generic field. This has led to 1 in 4 generic medications being filled in the U.S. The companies, 1 in 4, have received FDA warning letters. Do you agree that there are economic factors at play that we must address, such as group purchasing organizations, if we're going to be able to have a better supply chain for our generic medications?
Sounds like the hearing downstairs is getting to the core of the issue. Yeah, they're economic. Like I was saying before, if I offered you the chance to produce a drug and guaranteed you would lose money on every pill you made, it's unlikely you'd go in to that business, and you might also skimp on your quality systems and manufacturing, which then leads when we do inspections to find problems. So we've got to fix the core economics if we're going to get the situation fixed. We can plug the holes with the things that we've talked about with better data and talking to the companies to make up for problems when they occur, but we need to prevent them.
Well, one of the things that we got into downstairs, and you never have enough time to get into everything when you only get 5 minutes of questions, but one of the things we got into was the fact that we're heavily reliant on China and heavily reliant on India for the API to make the medications in the United States. Most of it's coming from Asia. And part of the concern was that we do such a job on inspecting American manufacturers and holding them to a high level, but then we don't do inspections overseas. And so not only is it cheaper from a labor standpoint, but it's also, you're not likely to have as many inspections from the FDA at your overseas locations. Doesn't that force our manufacturing offshore and make it more difficult for us to supply medicines for Americans?
I've had the privilege and experience of working in both China and India in my private and academic life. We inspect in India and hold India to the same standards as we do the U.S. We've had a problem in China the last several years, as you well know, and during the pandemic, it was also difficult to get to India during times of surges. But in general, we're holding India to the same standard, and as we're allowed back into China, we'll do the same thing there.
Well, but should we be allowed back into China, and will they let us back into China? I mean, 1, I don't know that we want to be dependent on China. 2, under their interpretation of their laws, your inspections may now be a crime in China. So why do we continue to think that that's our answer?
I certainly don't think that's our answer. I've helped start a university in China. I know a lot about Chinese laws and customs. I will point out 2/3 of the world's population lives between India, China, and the ASEAN nations in between. So they need to have their own API manufacturing, all that.
I'm not against them having their own. I just don't want them strangling ours.
We need a balanced system where we do our part in the U.S. But again, I'll just say, no American businessman is going to go into a business where the economics say you're going to lose money. And so we've got to fix the fundamental economics. And if you tell me we shouldn't inspect to make sure the quality is high, I'd say, no, please, let's don't do that.
No, and in fact, one of the concerns that I raised downstairs, and that I think you would agree with, is that this race to the bottom on pricing has affected the quality and the assurance that we'll actually have the medicine available for the American consumer when they get sick. We had a mom down there testifying that her daughter was going through some leukemia treatment, and on 3 different occasions during her treatment, they did not have the medicine. They did not have the medicine, and while her daughter has survived, She mentioned cases that she knows of because she started a nonprofit group to help people find the medicine where doctors have told her that it impacted the health of the patient or even led to death. This is unacceptable. Do you agree?
This tears us up at the FDA, and we're frequently caught with these manufacturing issues, but it's an essential medicine. And you're referring to cisplatin, which is a drug that we gave as interns decades ago. I won't say how many decades for you, but it was 4 decades for me. It should be available, but for all the reasons that you gave, we're seeing lapses due to the economics.
All right. I yield back. We'll work together to fix it.
Yep.